as a liability, which is actually a good news for the industry, because that means that the bank doesn't see that anymore as we need to have that because that is nice to have. It's actually we have to do that because it's a must to do. Otherwise, or board or CEO might get in trouble. So now there's a new set of companies like KPMG, Deloitte, and others that they are moving towards providing an audit, a cybersecurity audit, which is the same way you audit your financial company, financial performance of the company, and you have a third party that has to audit that for you. You cannot be self-audited by yourself. The trend in the market is to have a cybersecurity audit, which is also conducted by a third trusted party, and that audit should be published in the same way that you publish your financial audit. It's only at the beginning. It's coming from the United States. I think it's something that will be very interesting to deploy also here in Europe. That will activate the industry, that will allow the industry to be more visible, and maybe organizations that you have in Geneva, like SGS, like standard bodies, could become very much active on that.
Hi, Carlos, earlier you mentioned that passwords are obsolete, and that's something that I hear, I guess, frequently. And yet, I'm constantly entering in passwords. I'm a partner at a hedge fund firm to access all our information. We protect it with passwords. What are we going to be using 3 years or 5 years from now? What is going to be the evolution on this? Is the answer, well, we all have a digital identity in a watch or some physical implement? But what is the next solution? Because for something that's obsolete, it seems very ubiquitous.
Yes, that's a very good finalization of the thought. Yeah, I think, there's a normal evolution from password to digital identity. A digital identity is actually very easy to install. You know, when you have HTTPS, it's a certificate that you have to install in your computer that secures your communication browser user, and that is 128-bit encryption, which is enough to neutralize 99% of the hackers. The other element is to add a X509 certificate, which is a file. I mean, you can download that for free from WISeKey website, and you create a digital ID. So you have to answer a few questions at the beginning, but that digital ID is then stored into your mobile phone, into your browser, into your Outlook, and every time you have to single sign on anywhere, you don't have to do anymore with your password. Basically, you will still use password to create the identity, but you can be very complex password because you don't have to remember those passwords anymore, just once to create the identity. And once you have the identity, those passwords are not necessary to create. The passwords is still behind the digital ID. But in front of the transaction, you're not showing the password, you're showing the ID. It's like being shielded against the attack. So to be honest, it's like, I will call that like washing your teeth every morning. It's basic cybersecurity hygiene. Everybody should do it. It's so easy to do it, and there's absolutely no reason why, and it's not expensive. It's something that anyone can do. The problem is, as you said before, is that people are still on passwords. They just don't want to change the password because the password is so easy, and the education in the market has been let's use password. But to be honest, I think this year this is going to change. 2015 is going to be a radical year on compromising password, because before I needed a very strong attack to break your password. Now I can break your password in your mobile phone from my mobile phone from that distance. I can put now software that is reading your Bluetooth transmission, and I can intercept your password from my mobile phone. And we are in front in a meeting or having a coffee or having a lunch, and I can break your password. I can enter into your email, into your personal data. So I think passwords needs to move on. And there are some companies that are coming with intermediary, with this OTP, one-time password, which is a technology like RSA. Then you have to add a serial number, a random number, which is generated randomly. There are ways to do that if you want to still keep the password. You don't have to be forced to do it with companies like WISeKey, but it's a very strong advice to move out of passwords.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, you just have to back. Sorry.
Tim Noonan, International Trade Union Confederation, here with the Labour Leaders Group. You talked earlier about the exponential growth in the number of devices and the massive anticipated growth in the number of people who will be connected to the internet. And the day will come soon when more people will have internet access than will have a toilet in their home. That's a reality. And that's causing some, it's a wonderful thing, there's no question about the value of extending internet penetration, but that's also causing some consternation within security services and so on because of the potential for cybercrime and even cyber conflict. The interests of personal cybersecurity, the cyber elements of national security, private enterprise cybersecurity, and non-profit cybersecurity are not synonymous and often in conflict. So I'm very interested in how those elements can be reconciled in building a common process. And from an investor point of view, does the concern that governments are increasingly expressing about cybersecurity introduce some risks for investors who are particularly focused on the individual cybersecurity, in other words, the hiding of identity?
Yeah, very good question. Maybe Thomas, you want to answer part of that, and then I go, so I not only one.
Well, so again, I mean, it's not a question here about homogeneous solutions and putting every eggs in one basket and all that, and you certainly don't want to stifle innovation and development of new solutions. So the point here is that you need to get to a system that's coherent and that allows for informed choices, and that there are operators out there that are providing services. And that leads back also to the previous remark on ISO, and certification is needed. There need to be actors that are procuring solutions, and individuals cannot just be hanging in there and not having any information of that sort. They need to be helped in that way, and different kinds of organizations would have their different specialized sort of ways to go about it. So again, it's about the system and that you get it coherent.
Yeah, I think one trend in the market is, that's my observation, in line with government's role, the amount of money invested in cybersecurity is ridiculous, historically. I mean, we are now seeing data being projected over 2015 onward, but if you see on the past, you only have maybe 4 companies, then there are Symantec, RSA, I mean 4 companies covering the number of devices that you mentioned. Actually, for instance, Symantec or RSA do not cover security at all for devices. Their main business is SSL and its website security. They don't even have what they call Class 3 certification, which is identities. They cover that very little. But so that's why companies like WISeKey or FireEye or those companies are hot now, because there's nobody in the market doing this. But it's too big even for a company to handle that. I mean, without somebody putting a serious investment on securing the infrastructure, and only government can do that now, it will not work. So now what is happening, and this is, for instance, Microsoft launched a project with the name CityNext, which WISeKey is partner of it. And CityNext is putting cities to compete against cities to become cybersecurity hubs. So the model is the following. I was with Governor Perry in Texas just a few weeks ago. I had a meeting with him. He told me, I want Texas to be an intranet. I want the Texas state to be an intranet on the top of the internet. So we have a level of security that is higher than anywhere else in the United States. So multinationals then will come to Texas as economic promotion, will invest into Texas because they will not need themselves to equip themselves with the level of technology that the state already offers default. So this is a new trend. I think what is going to happen is that cities of the world are going to become cybersecurity hubs. The city is going to invest, is going to provide bunkers, is going to provide cryptography, is going to provide high-speed fiber optics, is going to provide random generation using quantum cryptography, which is already available. All the things which would be impossible and too expensive for one company to acquire will be provided by the city. For instance, in Geneva, we have something like 100 banks. Imagine each bank now investing something like $20, $30 million, which they will have to invest tomorrow if they don't want to be hacked after tomorrow. How are they going to do it? Where are they going to find the talent? Where are they going to find CSOs? Where are they going to be able to acquire the technology? It will be too late for them. Wouldn't it be easier to those banks get together and say, okay, let's create a city hub, and we will connect to that city hub as a way of defending ourselves towards the internet. So that's the new trend. And I think that's the future. So cities will compete against cities, and there will be an economic reason for investing in cybersecurity, because as a city you will be able to attract more people, companies, universities and others, then we create cybersecurity clusters. So that's where I believe it's going to come. Yeah, Marshall.
Yeah, just one question. If I'm the citizen on the street, I know nothing about security, as you know, because you are all expert in this industry. And when you look